This podcast does not provide medical nor legal advice. Please listen to the complete disclosure at the end of the recording.
Hello, possums, and welcome to Everyone Dies, the podcast where we talk about serious illness, dying, death, and bereavement. I'm Mary Ann Matzo, a nurse practitioner, and I use my experience from working as a nurse for 45 years to help answer your questions about what happens at the end of life.
And I'm Charlie Navarrete, an actor in New York City, and here to offer an every-person viewpoint to our podcast. We are both here because we believe that the more you know, the better prepared you are to make difficult decisions.
So please relax, get yourself something to eat and drink, and thank you for spending the next hour with Charlie and me for our discussion about the value of having a bucket list. Creating a bucket list of places you want to go or things that you want to do can be very helpful in terms of having a tool to attain your life goals. Having one gives you a master list of things you want to do before you die. It's like foreseeing what you want to in the future and putting it on one list. In the first half, we have our recipe of the week and scenes from the film, The Bucket List. In the second half, I'm going to give you 10 reasons to have a bucket list. And in the third half, Charlie has an excerpt from an essay by Dr. David Meyers titled, I Have Just Months to Live. Instead of making a bucket list, here's what I'm going to do. So, Charlie, do you have a bucket list?
I do not. I don't know. For all the difficulties and lousy situations that the COVID created for everyone, when everything shut down.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, Marianne. I just started thinking of what more about what I had time to think, and just started thinking more about what I would like to do, and I don't know. I just started doing it more. Just doing, finding more, acting opportunities for myself, different things, places I wanted to visit. I mean, I've lived in New York now for several years, and there's still, places and museums and little neighborhoods I had not visited yet. And it's like, well, why aren't you? So once, COVID, the restrictions began to lift, I just started doing it more and more. So, and to your point, but I didn't think of it as a bucket list. It's like, yeah, this is what I want to do. I usually have the time to do it, but if it's something important to me, I'm going to make the time to do it. So That's it. What about you?
Well, you know me, I'm a list person.
You're a loose cannon.
I put things on my to-do list just so I can cross them off, and feel a sense of accomplishment.
I know you have had your to-do list for a long time, which is great. Yeah.
But there's, and while I don't have a bucket list written down, there are things that I've wanted to do. Like I always wanted to take up scuba diving, and about 4 or 5 years ago, I started to do that. So, I've wanted to see the giant groupers, and we're going to go to Florida next week and dive, so I'll be able to do that. So, and then sometimes, something will come up and I'll say, you know what? I didn't know that I wanted to do that, but I want to do that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So, yes. Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing, just keeping yourself open to new experiences.
Right. Or things that I thought I would want to do. Like when I was younger, I'm like, no. Like when I go, let's go camping. It's like, you will never hear those words out of my mouth now,
Yeah. And actually, to that point, I've been camping a few times. It was okay, but I don't know. At some point, I realized, this is not for me. I mean, for me, the idea of roughing it is going to a city without hotel reservations. That's roughing it for me. That's about as far as I want to go. So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So our recipe this week is bucket cake. If you're going to work on your bucket list, you should eat cake as well as take cake to your next funeral lunch. This recipe is easy peasy to make and includes yellow cake mix, strawberries, and Cool Whip. Make this and you can cross making bucket cake off your bucket list. So next, please welcome David, who is going to be narrating our first half.
The film The Bucket List was released in 2007, starring Jack Nicholson as Edward Cole, a corporate billionaire, and Morgan Freeman as Carter Chambers, a working-class mechanic. Both have terminal cancer and meet while undergoing chemotherapy. During their treatment, they have plenty of time to get to know each other. So, our first half, Everyone Dies, presents a scene from The Bucket List, with Charlie playing Edward and Marianne playing Carter.
All your dreams fulfilled?
Pretty much, yeah. What about you?
Not exactly. We were practically kids ourselves when my first boy came along. Young, broke, black. You take the first job they offer you. 30 years goes by in a heartbeat.
Would you change it?
Well, I love my children, if that's what you mean.
Well, I'm sure you do, but you're a smart guy. Must have had a plan for your life before they came along.
I made this in high school. Creative writing class, some kind of exercise to get us thinking about something besides chasing skirts.
Carter's Bucket List. You weren't much on penmanship.
hasn't improved, I assure you.
I don't understand what this is.
I was trying to be funny, I guess. It's a list of things to do before I kick the bucket.
Make $1 million. Run for president.
I did say it was realistic.
Help a complete stranger for the good? That's philanthropic.
I was 16.
What's the one about the mountain?
Listen to the mountain and be heard. That's from my uncle. Second World War, his squadron flew supplies through the Himalayas into China. Called them the hump pilots. Most non-combat casualties of any unit in Air Force history. You can honestly say you've accomplished everything you've ever dreamed about?
I'm a millionaire a dozen times over. I grew my company from the ground up, built my own house, sold it, built a bigger house.
Money ain't everything.
No, but it sure takes the edge off of being miserable all the time.
And what about your wife?
Which one? We're talking about dreams, not nightmares.
There's got to be something you haven't done.
Look, dreams are for teenagers. Let's face it, we've had our time and we did what we did with it. We're all out of wishes. The genies left our magic lamps a long time ago.
Suit yourself.
But this conversation inspires Edward to think about his options at this point in his life, and he decides that a clinical trial for cancer treatment is not on the list.
What time is it?
6:24. I've been up since... I've had a lot on my mind.
So I see.
Not bad, huh?
A hot dog eating contest? Kiss the most beautiful woman in the world? How do you figure on doing that?
That's one of the tough ones. We'll figure it out.
Don't take this the wrong way, but these are a little shallow.
You're out of your mind. There's some great stuff on there. What kind of tattoo do you think I should get?
None, actually. I think you misunderstood.
No. I understood you perfectly. Your whole unfulfilled dreams thing is great for someone with a few decades in front of him, but I'm looking at weeks, months if I'm lucky. Your list was a little unrealistic, so I took the liberty of paring it down a little.
What did you had no right.
I got them both down to 10 apiece, so if we budget our time properly, we should be able to bang them all out before one of us kicks it.
You don't seriously think... I was being metaphorical, taking stock, trying to understand something about...
Blah, blah. Listen, metaphors are for tea drinkers who read poetry out loud to their sister. You said yourself you haven't done anything. This is your last chance.
To make a fool of myself?
To have your own life, to spend time, what time you have left, remembering what it feels like to have a future, rather than wallowing in the past as a guinea pig in Holcomb's bullshit science experiment.
You think it's bullshit?
You know it is.
What about my family?
What about them?
I can't just abandon them.
Why? Because you've been doing such a great job supporting them from the cancer ward?
No, I just...
And with that, Edward and Carter leave the hospital and travel the world, crossing things off their bucket lists. You'll have to watch the film for that part of the story. As the film nears its end, we see Edward opening a letter from Carter.
Dear Edward, it's turning cold out here in Newark, and the trees are like skeletons beneath the lamppost. Winter's almost upon us, and despite what the doctors tell me, I know it'll be my last. You know how I love to tell stories, so if you can spare me a few minutes, I think I've got a good one for you. There was an old farmer who spent his life working the earth to give his family all the cares and comforts he'd never had. One day the farmer fell sick, and he called his sons to his bedside, where he took up a bundle of sticks and said to his eldest son, "Show me that you can break it." The son strained and strained, but with all his efforts, he was unable to break the bundle. The other sons also tried, but none of them could break it. "Untie the bundle," said the farmer, "and each of you take a stick." When they had done so, he called out to them, "Now break them." And each stick was easily broken. No man is an island, my friend. We're just not built that way. You measure yourself by the people who measure themselves by you. And no matter how you battle the current, our lives are streams flowing into the same river towards whatever heaven lies in front of the mist behind the falls. Find the joy in your life, Edward. Close your eyes and let the waters take you. Open your heart and listen to the mountain. I promise you'll be heard. We're a bundle of sticks, you and I, but in this world or the one that follows, I will forever be grateful for the joy your life has brought to mine. Your friend always, Carter.
Edward is asked to give the eulogy at Carter's funeral.
I'm a businessman, a good one. I run hospitals. We take sick people and make them well again. Sometimes we succeed and sometimes we fail, but we're getting better at it every day. I started out with nothing but cold ambition, and over the years, my company grew until I had everything I ever wanted. I know now that I was never a wealthy man until my best friend came into my life. And from this incredible turnout, it only verifies the fact that Carter was truly the richest man I know. I don't know what most people say at these things, so I'll just tell you what I think Carter would want you to know. He's dead, and I still can't shut up about him. He loved his children more than his own heart. He loved his wife more than his own soul. He took the long way home, but he made it back, and you took him in and made him whole again, and you will never know how grateful he was. We saw the world together. Pretty amazing when you think that was only 9 months ago. We were strangers. He saved my life, and he knew it before I did. Carter gave me a book once. It was about a man who knew a thing or two about the world. The man said, "Learn as if you were going to live forever. Live as if you were going to die tomorrow." Tomorrow comes for all of us. It's what we do in between that makes us who we are.
Edward lived to be 79 years old. The film ends with both men's cremains in their own chock-full-of-nuts can left under a rock at the peak of Mount Everest, with Carter giving Edward's eulogy.
Edward Perriman Cole died in May. It was a Sunday in the afternoon, and there wasn't a cloud in the sky. Life is not measured by the breaths we take, but by the moments that take our breaths away. Whoever said that knew a thing or two. Even now, I can't claim to understand the measures of a life. Some people will tell you it's how we're remembered by history or by the ones we're left behind. Some believe it can be measured in faith. Some say by love. Other folks say life has no meaning at all. We're only dust in the breeze. What I can tell you is that by any standard, Edward Cole lived more in his last days on earth than most folks managed to wring out of a lifetime. I know that when he died, his eyes were closed and his heart was open. And I know that he could hear the mountain. And I know the mountain heard him in return.
Please go to our webpage for this week's recipe of bucket cake and additional resources for this program. And regarding those additional resources, thank you for everyone contacting us, leaving messages, in your appreciation of Marianne's vast knowledge about death, dying, and bereavement. Your tax-deductible donations are always welcome so that we can continue to offer you quality programming. Thank you in advance for making your donation at www.everyonedies.org. That's dies.org. Marianne?
Thanks, Charlie. Many of us have a list of things that we want to do or places we want to go. But during different times in our lives, we may be too busy with school, work, or children, or all three, to do them. Being a hopeful species, we do believe in one day and hope for the time, money, and health to live out our dreams. Being a hopeful species, we do believe in one day and hope for the time, money, and health to live out our dreams. The list are those things that we want to do before we die, before we kick the bucket, thus the term having a bucket list. You don't need to have a terminal illness or be dying to have a bucket list. You don't even need to call it a bucket list. It could be a life list, a life plan, a dream list. The point being, write out your list and add or subtract based on how your dreams and your interests change. A bucket list is an aspirational list of wants that your soul needs. Check out the show notes for a list of ideas to get you started. But the truth is, your bucket list should be a collection of life goals you work toward every single day. The list should be exciting, fun, fulfilling, bring you joy, excite you, and rejuvenate you. As far as we know, you have one life, and it's all yours. When creating a bucket list that you'll accomplish, it's important to think about all areas of life. This means travel, home, relationships, career, finance, family. Your bucket list should be something that inspires you and helps you strengthen your bond with others. A bucket list is also meant to help you live your best life possible. Keep your list where you can see it to remind yourself of your goals. So let me give you 10 thoughts to inspire you to develop your bucket list and start crossing them off as you make your dreams come true. 1, it brings your goals to life. Goals are important to have, and your bucket list can make those goals clearer, more real, and keep you motivated. 2, we never know when our lives will end. Death often comes when you least expect it, which is why we should be grateful for every day and make sure we're living the life you want. The more you can think about death and its inevitability, the better we can live our lives, and the more prepared we'll be when it comes. 3, it gives you purpose. A bucket list gives you something to get out of life and allows you to stay focused while you are doing it. 4, life improvement. You can slowly improve your life starting with your time management. Many people waste their time on irrelevant things, TikTok, which in the end has a neutral or negative effect on their entire life. Live a meaningful and memorable life. To live a meaningful or memorable life doesn't mean that you did everything you wanted to do. Even achieving a small short-term goal will give you a sense of satisfaction. 6, remember the things you want to do. With a bucket list, you can write down the things that need remembering when you are thinking about them. Occasionally, you should revisit your wants and figure out if they're still relevant in your life. 7, it'll pull you forward. Doing something on your bucket list will help to distract you for a while, especially if you've been feeling blue. This can be a great solution for someone who has anxiety or tends to focus too much on the negative things in life. Sometimes a distraction can be a welcome reprieve. 8, experience lifelong learning. You will never be able to learn everything there is to know, but the more experiences we participate in, the more that we will learn and grow. Not only can a bucket list help you learn things about different cultures, skills, situations, people, and personalities, but it can also help you learn more about yourself. 9, you'll never run out of things to do. Experiencing new and challenging things is a great way to get inspired and motivated to continue exploring the world. A bucket list can be never-ending as you come up with more exciting new ideas and goals for yourself. 10, better your life. A bucket list is a very personal thing, and the experiences you put on the list should be things that you truly want to do or accomplish. And don't make them so unrealistic that you won't be able to do them, and promise yourself that you will immerse yourself in those experiences. To quote Eleanor Roosevelt, the purpose of life, after all, is to live it, to taste experience to the utmost, to reach out eagerly and without fear for newer and richer experiences. Any thoughts you want to add to that, Charles?
What you said about not waiting to make a bucket list. You know what? I don't know. For me, it's basically, like I mentioned a little earlier about you think of something you want to do, and I know it's not always possible to run out and do it, but to make sure you do it for yourself. If it gives you, joy, peace, curiosity, whatever, that you do something nice for yourself. Yeah, don't wait till the end is near. Why wait? Why wait? Make time for yourself. That.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. And the other thing that I was thinking too is that being open to the experiences when they come your way. You know, like I've had so many experiences in my life where, opportunities have presented themselves when theoretically it just seemed impossible to take advantage of.
Right.
And so many times I've kind of reconsidered it and got creative with, I really want to do this. What do I need to do to make it happen? As opposed to just brushing it off and saying, I really want to do this, but there's no way I'm going to be able to do this. There's always a way. I grew up with my mother saying, where there's a will, there's a way. And I think, good with the bad of some of the things that she said to me in my brain, that's in there with the other things. And where there's a will, there's a way. If you want it, as much as it seems like that's impossible, as they said in Romper Room, put your thinking cap on and, try to figure it out.
Romper Room, yes, put on your thinking cap. I forgot about that. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think, too, things, opportunities, situations present themselves, but I do feel you'll do it, it'll present itself when, at the right time, that you are now able to do it. It may seem, a little frightening or you're just not sure about this, but I've found that things present themselves when you're ready for it. It may not be the easiest thing to do, but you're ready. You're ready to do it.
Well, and you might not even think that you're ready, but the universe thinks that you're ready.
Exactly.
And that's why it's there.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Yeah, you may not even be consciously aware that you're ready for it, but here it is. And yeah, go for it. I mean, what have you got to lose?
Right.
Yeah.
So we're ready for our podcast to go viral. What are you? No, I can't complain. So what do you have for our third half, Charles?
Well, this week I have an excerpt from an essay by David Meyers titled, "I Have Just Months to Live. Instead of making a bucket list, here's what I'm doing before I go." This was published in the Huffington Post in 2022. Dr. Meyers is a family physician and a health policy researcher in the Washington, D.C. area, living with terminal cancer. After my diagnosis with glioblastoma, an aggressive and terminal type of brain cancer, knitting became a way to keep my hands busy and my mind calm. As I recovered from brain surgery and went through 6 weeks of daily radiation, I knit dozens of simple cotton dishcloths for my friends and family to thank them for their support. Each took only a few hours to make, but every stitch made me feel emotionally connected to those who cared for me. I wanted to knit something for my son, Abe, as I had for other people I loved. It might take me, still a slow knitter, a full year to complete a sweater large enough for the man Abe had become. I thought I was unlikely to have that much time, so I wouldn't allow myself to even consider a project that big. Instead, I settled on a pair of fingerless gloves with a cable on the back. I was pleased with how they turned out, but they seemed paltry compared with what I wanted to make for him. Soon after I completed chemotherapy, my wife Hannah and I attended a yarn shop at a local brewery to celebrate. We spent the afternoon drinking craft beer, chatting with other knitters, and admiring works in progress. Near the end of the event, while Hannah was ordering final beers for us, a woman approached our table and started talking with me. She eventually asked me what I would make if I had the beautiful undyed wool she'd seen me admiring earlier. I told her I dreamed of knitting my son a sweater, but I didn't think I had enough time to complete it. She walked back to her table and returned with more than enough wool to knit a large sweater. "For you," she said. "Just promise me you'll try." I protested, but she told me she had driven 100 miles with this yarn to make sure it found a good home, and she couldn't think of a better place for it. When Hannah returned, I teared up as I told her how I'd been given the large bag of yarn in front of me. As soon as we got home, I found a sweater pattern that would work with the wool and pulled out the needles I would need. I wound 2 skeins of yarn into balls before going to bed with visions of Abe wearing the completed sweater. The next day, though, I couldn't get started. Why should I even cast on when I knew I would leave Abe something woefully incomplete? The yarn remained in the bag all week. At the next meeting of my cancer support group, I talked about the unexpected gift of yarn and my fear of failing to finish. In response, members of the group shared stories of their own challenges stemming from the knowledge that they were likely to die soon. I was not alone in my fear of starting something new. Our conversation helped me understand that starting the sweater would be a personal commitment to not giving up before I needed to. And I could keep my promise to the woman who gave me the yarn, to get started, to try. I cast on that night, and with every stitch I thought about my time with Abe, receiving knitting lessons from him, listening to him play violin and guitar, sharing a love of Shakespeare, teaching him to drive, saying goodbye after he moved into his dorm room, and hugging him before going into surgery. Often when someone is diagnosed with advanced cancer, friends and family offer advice to stay strong and be positive, insisting that the person will beat even the most aggressive form of the disease. For me, these types of well-intentioned comments are not comforting. Instead, they highlight our culture's fear of dying and its denial of death. When I was diagnosed, I knew that no amount of strength, positivity, or even faith would stop glioblastoma from killing me. The thought of leaving the people I loved left me heartbroken, but I chose to confront my prognosis honestly and openly. I thought deeply about what was most meaningful to me so I could make conscious decisions about what to do with the limited time I had. Rather than making a bucket list, I decided to continue working in a job I found deeply rewarding, to spend time with friends around our backyard fire pit, and to enjoy many evenings with Hannah reading aloud to each other while we knit together on the couch. I finished much of the sweater before my cancer became active again this past summer. I had to put it down when I underwent a second brain surgery and another round of radiation. I'm knitting again now, but at the end of the day, I'm often fatigued. Tremors in my hands make it hard to manipulate the knitting needles. Nevertheless, I am slowly making progress, and the sweater is nearly complete. My goal is to finish it and present it to Abe when he comes home for the holidays. If I am unable to finish it, I am confident he can knit the final stitches himself. Either way, he will know that my love for him helped me learn to live fully, even while dying.
That is really beautifully written, isn't it?
It really is. I can't. Yeah, just people finding that strength. You know, you have a choice in how you want to go. Yeah,
well,
it is beautiful.
I think that what we want people to know is that we all have choices, and
right.
You can wait till the very end and try to make sure that you get it all done, or you could start now and, do your advance directives, do your wills, think the hard thoughts, think about how you would want things to be.
Yeah,
and kind of, set them up. I mean, you don't have to dwell on it forever, but you could, stop to think about it and start getting those things taken care of.
Yeah, and we, always discuss about, preparation, and, my thing is about the documents. You don't want somebody else to make decisions for you, and just the nuts and bolts of just, everything from A to Z about dying. But I like what very much what the doctor says. He's, the sweater was nearly complete. He wanted to make sure it was finished before his son, came home for the holidays. But it just seemed he found some peace when, he said, if he was not able to finish it, that he would, that his son would be able to finish the final stitches. And that's, that's great. It's not a race. It's not a contest. You do what you can, but the point of it is that the doctor is saying, you do it. You do it. And with that, that's it for this week's episode. Please stay tuned for the continuing saga of Everyone Dies, and thank you for listening. This is Charlie Navarrete, and from poet and writer Robyn Sarah, on closing the apartment of my grandparents of blessed memory. And then I stood for the last time in that room. The key was in my hand. I held my ground and listened to the quiet that was like a sound, and saw how the long sun of winter afternoon fell slantwise on the floorboards, making bloom the grain in the blond wood. All that they owned was once contained here. At the window moaned a splinter of wind. I would be going soon. I would be going soon, but first I stood, hearing the years turn in that emptied place, whose fullness echoed, whose familiar smell of a tranquil life lived simply, clung like a mood, or a long-loved melody there, a lingering grace. And I locked up and rang the janitor's bell.
And I'm Marianne Matzo, and we'll see you next week. Remember, learn as if you're going to live forever, and live as if you were going to die tomorrow. And always remember that every day is a gift.
This podcast does not provide medical advice. All discussion on this podcast, such as treatments, dosages, outcomes, charts, patient profiles, advice, messages, and any other discussion are for informational purposes only and are not a substitute for professional medical advice or treatment. Always seek the advice of your primary care practitioner or other qualified health providers with any questions that you may have regarding your health. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard from this podcast. If you think you may have a medical emergency, call your doctor or 911 immediately. Everyone Dies does not recommend or endorse any specific tests, practitioners, products, procedures, opinions, or other information that may be mentioned in this podcast. Reliance on any information provided in this podcast by persons appearing on this podcast at the invitation of Everyone Dies or by other members is solely at your own risk.